It's not the motion of the ocean. It's the length of the cruise that counts.
What a wonderful way to start off the intro of this podcast. Welcome, one and all, to another unedited edition. This is PG-13 apparently today of Run the Block, brought to you by the Live Rich Project, which we have an exciting announcement. Should we just announce that first before we get into like what we're going to cover today? That way any kids that just want to skip. No? Okay. All right, fine.
We got to save it till got to give them a reason to stick around. And if you stick around to the end of this 40-minute podcast,
as everyone just scrolls really fast to the very end, the last 20 seconds to see what we said.
It's not at the end. It's hidden. It's hidden.
Yeah. It's in the middle. It's in the middle somewhere. You'll never know unless you listen to the whole thing. Actually, fun fact for you, Spotify counts a stream as 5 seconds. So that's all you need. That's where like all the, this was actually from T-Pain. So I haven't verified this, but this was from T-Pain of all people. He was like,
it on a good authority.
Yeah. He was like, this is how people rig the system. And they just put up a bunch of the phone bot farms. He's like, as long as you have 5 seconds, he's like, Spotify counts it as a stream. And so when you have people that rank up on these streams, he's like, that's what you can do if you want to do it. He's like, you don't have to, but some people do that stuff. And I was like, that's interesting. Only 5 seconds. Cause I feel like a podcast or something, like you're not even through the intro in 5 seconds, right? And the song, you're not even in that first drop yet.
So what I'm hearing is that because we're on Spotify, we need to start this farm so we get the streams, right?
Sure. We'll just make a bunch of 10-second episodes, and that way we get 100% listen through rate. We get a stream. We just make a bunch of 10-second episodes. That's all we need.
I like it. Let's do it.
All right, guys, today we are going to cover some hot topics. They're going to range, so this one's going to be a fun one. We're going to dive into podcasts. Actually, we have a little bit of data on podcasts. 1, should you have one? 2, what is the proper length for actual retention and viewership or listenership, I guess? Is it viewership of this podcast? Listenership? What's the word for that?
I don't know.
Retention rate? I don't know.
Someone get Joe Rogan on the phone.
Someone called Neil Patel. That's who we always defer to in all these situations. Someone called Neil. We're also going to jump into a little bit of some controversy surrounding some people that are protesting the Olympics, and it's not the usual form of protesting. I don't even know how to describe it besides telling you guys when we get to that story. You're going to want to stick around for that. And
it's a
lastly,
form of protest. Natural.
Yeah. Such a natural way. Lastly, we're going to cover a little bit about phantom debt. You may have heard the term like phantom equity. Phantom debt's kind of newer. And some of you guys that have products or services actually might even be utilizing this system. It's commonly referred to as like buy now, pay later. We have some updates on statistics and why you want to be really aware of kind of what's going on if you are utilizing these types of systems through PayPal or Apple Pay or any of those buy now, pay later systems, because you might want to be careful. So all that and much more. Where are we kicking off today, Michael?
Well, since the intro had that mistimed joke because I was looking off screen, we should just go ahead and clarify what that was about. Let's hop into some podcast data. Let's do it.
Fine.
All right, here we go. All right. So again, right from our good friend Neil Patel.
There he is.
Does the length of a podcast affect listens? And of course it does for multiple reasons. Now, we can look at attention span, we can look at busyness, we can look at the content itself. And so this is a cross section of 5,200,000 plus. Oh no, never mind. That's related to a different article. That's around posts. We will actually cover that one in the future. So we're going to push away what I just said. Pay attention to the visual.
Strike it from the record, please, Your Honor.
One of 2 retractions that'll be coming in this episode. And if you're not watching the visual podcast, go to YouTube, watch it there. So we can find the lowest point of listenership. There we go. Less than 5 minutes, only 314. But when we look at the sweet spots, which are between 31 and 35, we have 617. and 36 and 40. We've got 628. Those two are the largest by a sizable margin. And there's a little bit of fall off for the 41 to 45, but we have clumped together the three most telling links. And so what it seems is that you're looking at anywhere from 31 to a total of 45 minutes is optimal for a podcast. And so how I take that is we need to rant less. We need to trim about 20 minutes off of our podcast because they tend to be about an hour 5 long. So even for ourselves, right? This is telling on a way that we can improve. And so this is a great data piece for the length of time that you should put something together for. But let's talk a little bit about the why. And that is not discussed here. Podcasts are great for top of funnel. Top of funnel is getting people into your audience. It's how you get discovered, right? And so there's the number one thing, because everyone listens to podcasts, just about everyone, even if it's background noise, whatever the case may be. My wife and her friend in this small town have a podcast. They record every week. They have a video. One of their episodes has 47,000 views. And so it doesn't matter if you have some sort of celebrity status or not. What matters is, are you putting out quality material that your audience is going to engage with, right? And so that is something that, we try to do every episode here by being informative, educational, entertaining, and empowering by giving you guys knowledge on things that you can take actionable steps on. But the other reason is this. It's a great part of a nurture process. It's worked for years now. Not for nothing, but as far as 6 years ago, one of the best pieces of nurture, and I'll let you speak to this because, we're going back to selling coaching to people. It's something that you utilize to great, to great length and to a great level of success. But it's a big part of the nurture process because remember, whenever we have a business, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's just the podcast or if you have a product, a good, a service, whatever it is that you're trying to sell. Remember, you have to build know, like, and trust before anyone's ever going to make a true buying decision with you. And when you're putting out 60-second, 30-second, 90-second reels, like those are just snapshots in time, right? Like that's a great way to get someone to follow you so that they can then see more of what you put out. But ultimately, it's once they hear you in a longer format, less edited version of yourself, they get to not only see who you are, hear what you care about, but understand why you do what you do. And at the end of the day, that's what we're attracted to. It doesn't matter if we're going to refer to like Simon Sinek and the why behind the why or whatever his book was, or someone like Jobs who knew that, people care about what you care about. And the goal of anyone who has a business or something you're trying to grow is we're trying to enroll other people in our mission. We have a mission. And you're trying to convey the importance of what you do so you can get other people to kind of pick up that burden with you, right? Because it's something that's important to them. And then they will have the tendency to go a little bit further down your funnel, listen to more of what you have to say, and really start to become someone who shares. We want them to share episodes. We want them to talk about us around the water cooler, right? Because that's actually the best way to grow is positive word of mouth. I say positive because word of mouth works two ways. If you suck, people will say, hey, this sucks. Don't try it. Don't listen to it. I had to do that with you, Opal, online, right? But word of mouth works two ways. And so when we put the good things out there, we hope that other people will pay attention, will listen, will follow along, will love it, and will start to share that. But also within that, if you are using your podcast as part of your funnel and part of your nurture sequence, it is the thing, once again, that leads them into knowing who we are a little bit better, understanding the value that we provide through the problems that we solve. And they are more likely then to know you, like you, and trust you. So ultimately, they will spend their first dollars with you. And so, man, I'm going to go ahead and stop the share real quick. Do you mind speaking to a little bit about how you utilized various podcasts and trainings and things like that in the past during a sales process so the audience has actionable steps on this?
Yeah, I did it in a few different ways. One, the one you're speaking to, um, the gentleman we were working for had been on a couple bigger name podcasts. And so we were trying to borrow that authority before we had any partnerships or anything established. So that way anyone new that came in probably would recognize the names of the podcast or be familiar with them. And so I did a couple different things. One, anytime anyone would book a call, because you never know how a lead's coming through all the time. Sometimes people just come to a website and then click contact form and then fill it out. So you're not exactly sure until you reverse engineer it and figure out through your sales team or through surveys. So the first thing I did was I instituted, as soon as someone booked a call, I sent them 2 YouTube videos and 2 podcasts, because you don't know someone's preference as far as are they going to listen or would they rather watch. So I would do that, and they weren't just anything random. They were ones I know that had performed well as really hit home with what you just mentioned with mission, vision, values, and things like that. And it wasn't like someone just straight up talking like we are here. Like, I just didn't go through a 10-minute script about here's my mission, vision, values. Although you can, because if you don't have a guest spot or you don't have your own podcast, then just go do that. But they were just in a natural flowing conversation, so they didn't feel forced or anything like that, right? It was just this person talking about why they created the company, what were some things that they saw that were really wrong in the industry, and ultimately why their coaching company was different. And I mean, those like hit all of the objections, those hit all the pain points, especially when you can clearly communicate your differentiator and it resonates with people. Gold, right? Like, that's what people want to know. And so I just basically, through the follow-up process, once a call was booked, I made sure I would follow up. I would send them the link in either email, I would send them all the links, or in text, I would send them one link at a time. Ask, did they see this? Or, hey, make sure before we hop on the phone, you went through this. It'll really explain a lot. And you'll know right away if this is a good fit for you. So I was almost asking them to pre-qualify themselves. And it worked really well. Phone calls, literally 15 to 20 minutes. I mean, unless they had a bunch of questions. And I was selling nutrition coaching through that, right? And that's where, like, a common objection, people are like, either like, A, I'm not good at sales, or B, well, I'm on the phone for hours. It's like, maybe, or maybe you're trying too hard. You're not doing a lot of the pre-qualification process, the heavy lifting, to let people decide already if they want to work with you or not. Especially if they're a referral, right? They already kind of bought in. They just want to make sure it's a good fit, and maybe they know the price, maybe they don't. And so maybe they're trying to clarify that. So I'd highly recommend, as we have time and time again, if you don't have any of this content already or anything like that, just go open up some sort of app. There's plenty of free ones. Just record a 10-minute video on your mission, vision, values, why you are different. Because it's great practice. If you've never done those things or don't have those things down, you really should. And to do that. And we talk all the time about trying to get like a guest spot on somebody's podcast, right? If you have to pay a friend to ask you a bunch of questions and then chop them up, we've all seen those reels. Totally fine. You mentioned also top of funnel here. And so what we also tried to do was basically create a landing page for people to opt in to the YouTube videos. So I basically made like a TV broadcast page, right? It was just a ClickFunnels funnel page. And it had one main video, and then I made a sidebar that had 4 other videos. And if you clicked one of those videos, it took you to that main page. So it was almost like a mini YouTube page. Didn't take me very long. It was literally just a bunch of like duplicating the page and just changing out links is all it was. But then that way they had to opt in on the main page, and then they got to watch the YouTube video right there. And then I had the other 3 to 4 videos they could watch as well. This is where, you and I have talked about a mini series or something like that. If you're we'll call it an advanced coach, and you know things, or you've taken people through cuts, or you know how to speak to, whatever the pain points are about your product or your service, then that's where you can create those top of funnel videos. Like, and if you already have them in YouTube, even better, just repurpose them, and you can quickly create an opt-in to make sure people are on your email list to retarget them. Now, you don't have to do any of that. I've seen plenty of people just be like, you date on social and you send them to YouTube to marry you, and then have call to actions, and then they'll go sign up or join your list. And that's fine too. You just have to know whatever works for you and what's the best way, right? You can have all these amazing fancy things, but if you go and spend, 99% of your time trying to build these things and nobody opts in, or your video sucks in general, this is where I think Mr. Beast nails it every time. And it's like, you don't have less views because of the algorithms or social media hates you. You have less views because your videos probably suck. And so if you're finding that to be true, maybe spend a little more time, looking at what's my lead, right? How do I start the video? Is there like that, that 1 to 2 like awkward seconds, like before someone talks, like they just didn't cut the video, right? Is it that? Could you just maybe edit a little bit of the beginning and end and make sure your video starts quicker? Could you get to the point faster? All of those little tips and tricks really play in here, because the one thing people don't talk about that they did when TikTok was first launched and then Instagram tried to copy and then shorts came about on YouTube, I thought people originally had the right idea. They're like, use the shorts, use the smaller videos to lead them into something else, a longer form piece of content. I don't hear that mentioned any longer. I know you and I have told people to do this over and over again, but I don't hear that as a funnel option anymore, other than a couple people that I've heard talk about like send people to YouTube for longer form in general. So highly suggest either way, having 1 to 3 longer pieces of content you can send anybody, whether they've just joined your email list or they're actually booking calls, because the book call people should be the people right away that you're sending these things. And it doesn't matter if they've already seen it. Who cares? If they go, hey, yeah, I actually watched this last week. Part of the reason why I called. Great. Your stuff's working. Done deal. Keep promoting it. Right? Odds are they haven't, or if they're that big of a fan, maybe they'll want to watch it again. And so can't undervalue any of those pieces. And again, if you don't have any of that, you need to get it on paper and then just go hit record, make a 10, 12-minute video, and then start from there.
Yeah, man. I want to attach one thing that we've spoken about many times, just to give people the lens to look through as part of the usage of this strategy before we move on to the other data point from Neil. I'm looking at the clock. We're not going over 50 today. It's not going to happen. We're going to get those views up. So we cover a lot of the laws or rules of 100 here. And one of them is for when people come into your ecosystem, right? If you are a business owner, if you are, selling the thing, whatever that is. And so there's 4 distinct categories, right? And the 2 middle grounds actually comprise one. And so 60%, 60 out of 100 people who come into your ecosystem, never going to buy, right? I follow random people on Instagram or Twitter or whatever because I see something they did that I thought was cool, and then I never see them again, right? Like, it's just how it goes. So 60%, 3 out of 5, never going to buy. We want to pre-qualify those people and not have to spend 45 minutes to an hour on a sales call. If you're not super skilled at sales, that is what tends to happen, right? Like, we've dealt with that. I don't know how many times coaches, consultants come in and they're like, I'm dying on sales calls. My sales calls take an hour and 10 minutes. People are just dumping on me. It's because you don't understand how to control the frame of that call. And that's a skill that you actually need to sharpen. But we want to protect our time as business owners because we want to work on the business as much as possible and not have to work in it all the time. And if you don't know how to pre-qualify, you're going to spend a lot of time on calls that you're just throwing time away. And so understand 60% not going to buy. Top of the pyramid, 4%, 4 out of 100, they're ready to buy right now, right? Like, they know the problem they have. They know the solution. They're aware of your product. They're ready to go. So now we have 36% left, and that's divided into 2 categories. Another 20% are in the information gathering phase, right? Like, they're shopping around, they're window shopping. They're comparing you to others that they've seen, but they're never going to buy. They're going to be in your ecosystem 3 to 6 months looking around. They're still not going to buy. So now we have 4 out of 5 people who come to you will never purchase. But that 16%, that's where the gold is, right? And we know it's going to take 3 to 6 months for them to make a purchase. It's the nurture sequence. It's about getting you and your best self and your best stuff in front of them so they can understand who you are, why you do what you do, what your heart looks like on the inside. So ultimately they will come in. And so you've probably heard, like, the money's in the follow-up when it comes to sales. And it definitely is, because 4 out of 100 ready to buy, 16% information gathered. And so again, keep that lens in mind when people come into your ecosystem on setting your expectations and also setting up your business, right? Like, nurture is an important part of growth. And if you don't have it set up right, you miss out on those 16% and you're just left with 4 out of 100 people. Unless you're selling super duper high ticket, that's not going to help you grow, right? So I just wanted to tack that on. Let's go ahead and dive into the next stat from Neil. And this is interesting, and this is relevant, and this is a look to the future, right? So this is related to search engines. How do people search for questions online? And so we have the blue bar being from the year 2000, freshly off the Y2K scare, and now 2024 is the orange. And so this is the difference. And search engines at that point in time were 98%. And that was primarily Yahoo and a bit of Google and a bit of probably Bing at that point. Google, I think, was invented in 97 or founded in 97. So like, they didn't have a massive piece of the market yet. They were definitely on the rise. This is still when Yahoo was around. And so back then, 98% went through search engines. Now it's only 61%, 6 out of 10 people instead of basically 10 out of 10. And so where has the rest of that gone to? Well, number one, social media. At that point, only 1% were using social media to find out what they needed. So right now we're looking to Tom for guidance in the year 2000. We're looking at MySpace, right? 1 out of 100 people were looking on social media. Now it's 17%. That's where they go to find their sources of information. What are you putting out on social media? Are you educating? Are you putting relevant things out that are going to build your authority? 17 out of 100 people are going to social media for their answers, right? When it comes to their education, when it comes to problem solving. So make sure that the content you're putting out is educating. It's empowering, and that's going to keep people coming back to you. So we need to put that out consistently. So from there, the big portion has now gone to AI chatbots, right? Chat GPT specifically. And if you go on to the other sites, you know, they're also powered there, but people are still typically using Google. They're not using their AI as much. You're using Twitter, maybe not Grok. I play around with it because it's hilarious, but for the most part, it's ChatGPT, right? And so AI chatbots are really big. How can you figure out how to leverage that for yourself in the future? And the way AI is advancing, you will be able to train your own chatbots to be able to replicate the way that you solve problems and put those in your business for people to interact with. And so ultimately replacing the want, need, desire for VAs or for chat setter or call setters or whatever the case may be, right? So this is coming down the pipe really fast and really hot. As we know more, Cam, this is a heavy area of research for Cam. And as we know more, of course, we're going to bring it to you, but just start looking ahead now. And then we have others, 1% and 2%. So others, whatever that is, that could be like Answer the Public, right? Neil's site. What's the other one he has? Quora?
Yeah, I think they're trying to like condense everything together, because Answer the Public's where he's like pushing everybody now.
Yeah.
Which we have some fun things about that as well. Some updates coming there. The 30% on AI chatbots is interesting to me. It's not surprising. Google search is down, right? I think, you know, that's just not surprising. What I would be curious to know is, does AI chatbots include Alexa and Siri, right? When people see that survey, are they just saying that? Because I'm sure a ton of people actually use Siri and Alexa already, right? Hey, what's the weather? Hey, what is this?
Yeah.
Hey, what time is the Pittsburgh Pirates games on, on Sunday? Or like, tell me the schedule, or remind me of what my schedule is today, right? I'm sure like that's actually probably pretty high. I'd love to see the the data on how many people have those helpful advisors, we'll call them that, helpful AI advisors actually turned on, versus people that have it turned off, even on their phones. I'm not sure. Does Google, what does Google use? Because Amazon's Alexa, right? What is, I don't know.
I
whatever it
would
is.
I would never use whatever it is, so I don't know. When the company's motto is, what did their company motto when they were founded? Wasn't it like do no evil or don't be evil or something
Google's
like that?
do no evil.
And then
Okay,
they took that away.
Yeah, so Amazon Alexa and they have Echo. I was trying to, what is Google's version of that? I'll figure it out for this is over.
Okay.
I thought it was because Facebook is Llama or something like that, right? It's like something Llama.
Yep. While you're figuring that out and getting ready to transition into what you're going to go through, we're going to go ahead and print a retraction, right? Newspapers are supposed to print retractions. This is more of a clarification, but we'll call it a retraction. So in a previous episode, we had covered one of the moves Twitter was making, where they were hiding likes. And so the way that it was presented, it seemed and felt like you're not going to see likes anymore. And so we covered what are the other relevant metrics that you can look at. But as it was rolled out, likes are still there. What it does mean is that you can't see who likes something. And I think this is great. And I think this is, we cover the concept of genesis in business. Typically, a business follows suit to the founder, their strengths and their weaknesses. And so with Elon taking the, pro 1A free speech must live no matter what approach, cancel culture, which thank God it's dying. It's dying. This is another step to prevent that from happening, right? Like now people can't go after your job because you liked some meme. You liked a meme that they don't agree with. And so now they're calling your boss and they're putting it online that you did the thing. And now they're trying to get all of their dorky friends who do all the name calling, you stinky duty face, to send a virtual barrage to your place of employment to try to get you axed. That can't happen anymore. And that's a beautiful thing. And we need more of that because we need less and less people in this world who are trying to wreak havoc on others because of disagreeing with their opinion, which is a silly thing. We champion more conversation. We champion sitting down and building the bridge between the two parties and not building, a moat in between. Moats can be handy. But in this case, this is a great thing. The fact that you can't see who likes what is wonderful. So well done. Sorry, we misinterpreted it. This is the way that it should be interpreted going forward.
Yeah. Well, and who's to say that wasn't maybe the plan, but then a lot of people were like, that's dumb. Yeah. We should be able to see those things. So whatever happened in that way, you can still see if there's 3,000 or 10,000 likes, which is what people wanted, the vanity metric. So we still see it. We still know if it's popular.
Yep.
So you can go through that. But yeah, the individual person. But I didn't realize this either until last night. I was just like looking at the layout. But anything you like actually has its own feed. I don't know if you saw that or not, but I didn't know that actually existed on your profile. Yeah, because I was just like looking back through like the history. I was like, how long have I even had this account? Because there was like years where I didn't even use it. And I was just like looking back, and anything you've replied to, any likes that you have is like under your own profile. So like I don't think other people can see that, but like you can go in and see it. So I was like, oh, that's nice. So like bookmarks similar to likes, but you can go back through them. All right, dude, did you see this? Did you see who Lionel Messi said was the greatest of all time?
Tell me more.
I pulled this one up because I figured you'd like it. So Messi says Michael Jordan, shock, is the greatest of all time. This is direct quotes. This is from the Dunk Central, so it's got to be true. Quotes, it seems to me in terms of sports, he's the greatest there is. But after having seen his series and getting to know a bit more about him, The Last Dance, it just blows your mind. It's a masterpiece. It's impressive. Well, that also brought me closer to him and to understand a bit more about who he was. It's a pity that I couldn't have lived through that era in person because I would have loved it. End quotes. That is Messi directly speaking about Mr. Michael Goat Jordan. How's that make you feel?
Well, I mean, man's right.
He ain't lying.
He ain't lying. Sorry to all the LeBron fans. He ain't lying.
Well, the first part of that is even just The Last Dance. Hands down, one of the best documentaries of all time. And hats off to Jordan, whether it was his ego or not, but he pressed and pressed like, hey, we need to do something with this footage. You guys are sitting on these archives for decades now. Why has nothing been done? So hats off to him, even if it was his ego, but like that was even produced and directed. I can't remember the gentleman's name who directed that, but like I've watched it at least 3 times, and I mean it's over 10 hours long. Yeah,
it's incredible. It's one of my favorite reaction gifs is, and I took that personally, right?
Yeah.
But it
yeah.
So you said something that I think we should talk about. You said the ego, and I'm going to say yes. It is the ego, and the other side of that is the hatred of losing. The hatred of losing. And when you see top tier champions, it's commonly spoken of them like, no, it's not the love of winning, it's the hatred of losing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the hyper competitiveness. And this is an example of that, because I'm going to say it's his ego and it's his hatred of losing, because at this time, the dum-dum in the barbershop, after, it was released, where LeBron said, and after that, I felt like I was the GOAT, talking about the 3-1 comeback, which was incredible.
Yeah.
After he lost, a few finals, got bailed out by his team and others, which Jordan never had happen. Anyways, and so there was that conversation at the time. And so I can see him, right? Like, just like Dr. Evil, release the sharks with the lasers. He's like, release the footage. And now what do we know? What do we know in the last 30 days? That LeBron has an entire media conglomerate behind him, putting out propaganda, trying to position him as the GOAT. And so it doesn't matter where you fall on the spectrum. Typically the younger crowd will say whoever their person is the GOAT. The older crowd will say their person is the GOAT, because we want to attach ourselves to greatness. That's what that really comes down to more than anything. Is it's about us. It's not even about them anymore. But inside of the mindset of two of the greatest, right? Like, it is commonly agreed more often than not, they are the top tier. They are the apex of NBA players. You'll get people who talk Kareem and Bill Russell and those things, and that's fine. But it's typically these two are 1A, 1B for most people. And it's just that beautiful insight into the mindset of both of them, right? Like that hyper competitive, just will to not lose no matter what. Now, I want to take this in a different angle. And number one, as someone who did grow up in this time frame, I moved to Illinois from Georgia just in time to watch the first finals against the Lakers in Illinois. And I had family, aunts, uncles, grandparents, parents, all within vicinities of each other. And it didn't matter. We were tuning in and we were in the same room together, right? And every time Jordan went somewhere, the city shut down, right? Like those Bulls, but specifically Jordan, that city shut down in a way that we've only seen a few other times. The Beatles, Elvis Presley, Michael Jackson, right? And so we've got 50s, 60s, early 70s for the King. We've got 80s for Michael Jackson. We've got the 90s for Michael Jordan. We haven't seen it since. We're not going to see it again. And part of it's because of timing. The timing of greatness is so important. I've referred to many times, if you read Outliers by Gladwell, The Psychology of Money, things like that, they refer to the timing being so important with someone like Bill Gates, like Steve Jobs, all these tech billionaires, because they were born within a few years of each other and they had access to computers when other people didn't. And it's about the timing. The timing is so important to greatness, right? And so,
what about not to get you off track, but I was just curious because where would you, and this, we're not going into politics here, but like there has been, it feels like fandom for President Trump. Like it feels like some of those have been like, to your point about there's not really been that in a while. It feels like there's some of that with some of the stuff that you're seeing when there's events. Would you consider somebody like that? I get it's different. It's a political figure. Would you put someone like that with like that fandom or celebrity status, or is that some kind of different?
Yes and no. Yes and no, because the thing is still the thing, right? Like you see Trump rallies and there's just thousands and thousands and thousands of people who show up for these things.
Fake news. Sorry.
Look, if that's your thing, cool. I'm not going to anyone's rally, ever, right? And so if that's your thing,
you boys want to
totally
rally?
Fine.
That's one of the best. If you guys know nothing of South Park, just go watch that episode. It's so good.
And so because it's the thing, yes, and we saw it one other time. Obama, polar opposites,
right?
Polar opposite views. Don't care what you think about any of them. Obama was suave. He was the best orator, right? Tall, handsome.
That's true.
Athletic. He was all these things. Plus the timing again of culture, right? The timing of where the country was and the way the culture's headed. Same thing. Trump is a great orator. Trump is really good at keeping things at a fifth grade level, right? Which in sales and marketing, that's what we tell everyone. Like, you got to bring it all the way down. He does that. But what else does he do? He's an entertainer. The man's got jokes for days, and he understands the importance of timing in the way that he speaks. And so here's the difference. At the time, Obama was seen as a sense of unity. If you care about policy and you care about things that happened during people's presidency, he caused a lot of division globally. And now, retrospectively, it's caused a lot of division in our country. The same thing. Look, the Trump is about timing with the culture again, because of where the culture's gone, where the country's gone. And so now the culture of overcorrection, the pendulum swinging the other way. And when the economy's down, when the middle class is deteriorating, when a person has a justice system weaponized against them, more and more black voters are switching to Trump because that's the way that they feel they've been perceived and treated by this country for so very long. It's now like, oh no, he's like me, right? Which, if you go back before 2016, he was embraced and loved by the hip hop and black community, right? And so the culture swing is happening again. Now, here's the difference. Michael Jordan brought everyone together, unless you were a New York Knicks fan. If you were a Knicks fan, you hated him. But there are no Knicks fans outside of New York, right? And even Pacers fans, right? Like, love Jordan, even though they booed him, right? Like, he got plenty of applause. Yeah. Jordan brought everyone together. These guys are part of divisiveness, no matter how you look at it. And so timing is right there. And that's also why it's going to take political figures to have the timing of this level of success, because we're now exposed to more sports than ever before, more athletes than ever before, more charismatic personalities. And that divides people's level of fanhood, fanship, adoration, whatever, because there were fewer buckets to pour in. There was less greatness to follow, and there's more greatness to follow. It's the same thing with the music. We talked about the Beatles. We talked about all of them. Even the bigger names today, your Drakes, your Ed Sheerans, your Taylor Swifts, they have that reaction, not nearly to that level, though. One of them does. We're not going to say who it is because we're not going to cover it on this podcast. But still, no one has had it like that. And that's because anyone can be a rapper with SoundCloud. Anyone can be a rapper with Spotify. And so now that anyone can do it and you can have fanfare for anyone, every time you're listening to someone else's music, you're not listening to that person's music. And so there's less of that raving fanhood for whoever that is. And so in the music industry, I doubt we're going to see that again. In sports, I doubt we could, right? Greatness comes along. And the only difference is LeBron's greatness is positioned around cultural differences as well. And so it's divisive by nature. Jordan's was never that. And so I think because of the timing, we don't see that level of greatness again. And when you think of greatness, it's not skill. It is skill related. I don't want to dismiss that, but it's about the impact the person had at that time. And can that level of impact ever be had again? It's the reason why Jim Brown is still considered by many the greatest running back of all time, because of the level of dominance that man displayed over everyone else. Is unmatched, will never be matched again in the NFL. If you put him in today's game, how's he going to do? He's getting 1,000 yards. He is. Is he going to dominate? No, because now we have 6'9" men who run 4.3 40s, and when they hit you once, you die. That's why running backs don't have the same shelf life that they used to in the NFL anymore. Again, timing, right? Evolution of the game. And so he is the greatest that we've ever seen. He's probably the greatest anything that we've ever seen. And I hope more people will go back and watch the games and not just the highlights, so they can see the level of dominance and how it's clear as day. That was not a man amongst boys. That was a god amongst boys. And I don't think we see it again. Hats off to you, Messi.
Game recognizes game. If you haven't seen Last Dance and you ever need motivation, just go watch that and you'll be hooked. So probably make sure it's a weekend, because you're going to just spend the next 10 hours of your day just watching those. The whole thing is just insane.
For sure.
All right. Phantom debt, buy now, pay later. This is a story that was originally released from some consumer reports. So Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So this is phantom debt is flying under the radar, and it could be a problem for the U.S. economy. The number of buy now, pay later loans increased nearly 1,100% between 2019 and 2021, according to data compiled by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The debt that accumulates from these loans is referred to as phantom debt because it is unclear just how much is out there and how well consumers are paying them back. Juniper Research estimates these transactions could nearly reach $700 billion by 2028. Now, you and I kind of are always looking at the debt and payments and deferments and all these things. And so, we've actually heard a couple people, PBD being one of them, cover topics like this, within the last few months. So buy now, pay later, I believe, is 4 months or less. And the reason why people like to utilize that is not only because it's easy on a checkout form, but I believe as long as it's 4 months or less, it also doesn't report to your credit bureau. So what that means is you don't get a ding for financing something, right? So if you want to go buy something, say you want to go buy, I don't know, a mattress, it's $1,000, and you can do that in 4 payments or less at $250. Well, they basically send you the mattress, you pay 4 payments of $250, you don't get a ding on your credit, and you get the thing you want. So it's almost like a reverse layaway, right? If you're too young to remember what layaway is, it used to be this wild thing where you'd go into a department store and you'd say, hey, I want that. You would take it to the back of the store, say, hey, I want to put this on layaway. And then you would set up how many payments you can make to pay it in full and then come back at a later date to pick it up. Wild, I know, but there used to be its own counter and everything and customer service next to where people would try on clothes or something, and you would just get your name written on it with a sticky and how much you owed. And that was the day and age of Sears and Kmart and all those places. Maybe it's also why they're out of business. Not sure. But this has become very, very popular. And if you are a business owner, obviously on this or listening to this, this is an option that you may be considering because it's so easy with all the processing companies out there. Affirm, PayPal. PayPal does its own with its credit lenders. Usually they do PayPal credit, which it used to not report to the credit bureau, but it does now. And so usually you get 6 months or less if you can pay off the thing in full. then you don't get interest charged, but they actually do report any of those charges to the credit bureau. But Affirm, there's several others that will allow you to try to do these 3 to 4 month payments to then get your product or service, whatever your thing is, to individuals. And so I know you and I were talking about this, and we're probably under the impression it's probably already at 700 billion, right? Like, because this data was saying 2019 to 2021. And in the last 3 years, I would have to imagine that's just exploded, especially right now where we are on the debts that we've covered. Interest rates are rising. I would just assume that it's probably really insane at this point, right? Does anyone control that? Who's controlling that? Does the government not control that if it's not linked to, your credit?
I have no idea.
So it's just the Wild West.
I think it is, but I think it's a more insidious version of credit card, right? Like spend,
Sure.
spend, bill at the end, right?
Yep.
And so people who are doing this can't afford to buy things in cash, don't have good credit as is, which, by the way, one of the things that affects your credit is credit mixture, and having monthly recurring payments that ding positively on your credits, one of the things that raises the score. It's actually the thing that you want to do. But if you're using this, you probably don't have good credit. You probably don't have good financial status, and ultimately you're not going to be able to do the thing, and you're going to default, right? We've already seen that with credit card debt. So I don't think this is a good thing at all. I'm not alone in that feeling, but if we think about that data, I had no idea what that was in 2019. I had no idea what that was in 2020. I probably started seeing it frequently or noticing it in 2021. I don't think I'm alone in not seeing that thing back then. And so when you mix the state of the world, the economy, hell in a handbasket, and more awareness of that, there's no way to project how much money is tied up into that thing, which is why they call it phantom debt, because there's truly no way of understanding that amount. But when credit card, I want to say it was a month ago, credit card debt was at a record of 2.1 trillion. Just add another trillion. Go ahead and add another 50% of that right on top. I think it's past the hundreds of billions at this point, because it's something that more and more people are using because it's starting to make the news. And so I think this is an insidious way to cause even more chaos and more collapse, which, not going to go into anything weird, but all of this is leading to a digital currency that they're trying to institute. When you look around at the other things that are happening, right? Like, not for nothing, this is all a giant money laundering scheme where our tax dollars are being shipped overseas to pay for other things that then go into the hands of the leaders of those places who are facilitating the overseas things. Look at the Ukraine. And then that money then comes back into special interest groups, PAC groups, and heads of business, where they buy assets, which will continue to hold value, hold their wealth, and generate money that will get all of them through as the economy collapses on the rest of us. So you probably shouldn't do this, because it's only taking a step into the trap that's being purposely built for all of us at the moment. I would heavily advise against this.
Yeah, I mean, as an individual consumer, I would be cautious, right? If it's something you really need, then of course, do what you can. You got to get what you got to get. Something that your family needs, got it. If it's just something random that you really want and you can't finance on your own. The only reason I even knew about this, oh my gosh, I've been a PayPal customer for years, right? And so I want to say it might have, I don't know, this would have been years ago, but I was like, before I knew actually like how to use credit cards and like how to get points, I was like, oh, 6 months interest free. Of course I'll sign up for that, right? So like I would just buy anything. Plus I always liked the fact if you bought through PayPal, you didn't have to input your card. And so like PayPal held your card information. You didn't have to, if you didn't know exactly what the site was or anything like that, or it was a new site, you didn't have to worry about them getting hacked and get your information. Now I don't use that at all, because I understand how to utilize credit cards and like how to get points and how to do that stuff. Hint at maybe some stuff coming in the future for consumers. But buy now, pay later is interesting because of what you sort of went into, and they want you to pay, or they tell you, hey, you can pay this off interest free 3-4 months, no worries, right? But then if you don't, what happens? Well, it's the same thing if you don't pay your credit card bill in full in 30 or 60 days. I think maybe even Plum Card's 90 days. I think you get 30 plus 30. Well, then you get tacked on the interest for every day that you had that outstanding balance. And so at the end of 4 months, if it's $1,000 and you could only pay, $500, well, now you've got $500 of interest that you're going to be paying on. And so you start racking up a lot of extra cash to these establishments very quickly. And I know there's been some issues on the back end because they also, I think if they're in that category of not technically having to report your credit, I think they're a different type of institution. And so I know there's been some wonkiness there as far as like how they report all these numbers and stuff. But plain and simple, consumer, if you can't make it in 4 payments or less, probably don't. And as a business owner, I mean, it's tough because you want to sell your products. It's a very easy option for people to click 2 buttons and see if they, can apply for that 3 to 4 month payment. I believe you get paid in full, and then their relationship goes on with the creditor. So I think you still get your cash and don't have to worry about that. I'm not exactly sure on that relationship. You and I don't know. I've never used one. I've taken payments through PayPal back in the day, but that was like direct invoices. So I'm not sure if you're using a firm. Double check with, YouTube, go and search those things. I'm not sure how that relationship works with businesses at all.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We're going to have to find out though.
Yeah.
Yep.
Future training for sure. All right, dude, we hit 51 minutes. I feel like that's right in there. That's just a couple minutes beyond Neil Patel's suggestion, but you saw that the chart didn't go down, right? It was close enough for me. It was good.
We'll get better. But Cam, there's one more thing, and it's the natural form of protest. I feel that it's got to be covered.
Oh yeah! Wow, I almost forgot. That was the best story of the day. Let me see if I can screen share this because it's just too good not to. You got to see this actual. Let's go here. Screen share. God, I'm so glad you caught that. I know for sure I'd have gotten called out. If Jordan's listening this far, she would have called me out for sure on that. So
absolutely.
All right, I don't know. Roy Wood Jr. is a suggested follow. All right. Here he is from Roy Wood Jr. He's a comedian. Wasn't he on was it the Daily Show? Is that what he was?
I think he was.
Yeah, I think he was. So French people protesting the Olympics by pooping in the river the swimmers are supposed to use. Oh yeah, right there. I'll come back to the Daily Show on a 10-day contract to cover this. So the video
there's no reason to doubt the swimming events for the Olympics won't take place in the sun this summer, and they're confident the swimmers will be able to use.
Can you hear that audio?
Who protested?
Can you hear the audio, Michael?
Yep, go ahead.
Did you say yeah?
If you hit play. Yeah.
Okay.
Play,
okay,
we can
cool.
hear.
All right, perfect.
Paris is happening tomorrow, and this is what this is like today. The government has spent over €1 billion trying to clean the sun before the Paris Summer Olympics. That's in 1 month, and it's not working. So Parisians have set up a website telling everyone to go poop in the sun tomorrow on June 23rd, which is when President Emmanuel Macron and Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo both said they'd go swim to prove it's clean. The website even has a calculator. Far from Paris can know when they need to poop in the river for it to flow down to Paris at noon tomorrow. Without poop, the sun looks awful. It's even more green in person, and I saw people dumping garbage into it. Apparently, they've done multiple tests, and the level of bacteria in the sun is 3 times higher than other open water swimming events allow. However, the Olympic Committee says there's no reason to doubt the swimming events for the Olympics won't take place in the sun this summer, and they're confident the swimmers will be able to use it. So, I don't know. Did you swim in it?
So, this is where we are. Let me stop the screen share. People quietly protesting that a lot of money has been spent for the Olympics instead of fixing their country. And they're telling people to go poop in the river that's already filled with a bunch of bacteria and nastiness. What are your thoughts here?
Oh, man. Well, all right. So I prefer this brand of protesting to blocking traffic, to spraying art and history with orange spray paint that some people do. So I prefer this because of the Genesis story. Why are they doing it in the first place? Well, what's the from the Romans that is very true to this day? Give them breads and circuses, right? And they will be entertained. And the West, right? The Western countries are falling. By the way, the river, when you import the third world, this is what happens to your open water supply. And people are furious that the money is not going where it should be, which is the attitude that every single person should take. Now, I wish Americans would start taking this. However, unless you're on Twitter, you don't see these things happen. You don't see the farmers who have been told you can't farm anymore, who are pulling up to government locations and spraying them with manure and like tons and tons and tons. We're not talking flinging poo like monkeys. We're talking about tons of fertilizer being shot over government institutions. And by the way, those are the people causing all the problems for all of us. And so that's where the protest should go. Don't disturb the peace. Don't take it out on history. Go to your local government facility to protest whatever you are unhappy about, because the rest of us, we are the rest of us. We have no control over this situation, right? And so I personally love it. And I'm never going to swim in a river because I know better. Living in Illinois, seeing how dirty the rivers are that, you know, people just go out and boat in, I would never swim in a river. But in a city, absolutely bananas. Definitely not. But I love it. I support it. Do more of it.
Would you live in a van down by the river? That's the real question, though. Shout out to Chris Farley.
No.
Yeah, this yeah, I'm with you. It seems like a more proper way to protest. It reminds me though, like 2016 Brazil, same problems, right? They wanted to swim in the Rio de Janeiro, right? Wasn't that the big thing? And the river was just so dirty, and all they had this massive like effort to clean up all this garbage, and it's like, well, maybe you should have did that to begin with. But I remember them going through this, and they were testing the water, and like the bacteria levels were just crazy, and it's just like, why? Just put them in a pool. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's not a stance you need to make that you can swim in the river. The Olympics aren't what it used to be. I think that needs to be story number one. Growing up, right, the Olympics were an amazing time. There was nothing else on TV. That's all you're going to do. You're going to sit around almost as a family and just watch it, right? That's all. Go USA. You just felt pride in your country, and it was just an amazing time. I couldn't tell you one person coming up in the Olympics this summer. Like growing up, you knew everybody in track and field. I mean, you knew all the names. They were on the Wheaties box, right? They were on the Nike commercials. You just knew all of our athletes. And now today, I couldn't really name many, right? Like the world loved swimming for 12 years because of Michael Phelps. Like since then, no one's cared about it besides some of the, you know, identity politics that we've seen recently. But that was the power that happened at the Olympics, right? I don't know if that's still the case. It's definitely not for me anymore.
So and you touch the surface, right? It goes back to the greatness and the timing. And there's more buckets to pour your attention into now. There were less buckets then. We all, Carl Lewis, baby, running the 100, running the anchor leg of the 4x1, right? Michael Johnson running that 2, running that 4. Michael Phelps, greatness. No one cared about swimming before. No one's cared about swimming since. Even with Lance Armstrong, no one cared about cycling before. No one cared about it since. Matter of fact, most of us don't like cyclists and wish you'd get off the road. But it's timing, right? Greatness is always attached to timing. And I don't think we're going to see that again. And as you said, it was a sense of national pride. We went in, we kicked butt. Everyone was happy, but there's no sense of national pride. We are divided, or we're told we're divided, and we're shown division. We're fed divisiveness. And so it's really hard to take pride in a country when you're not actually proud of the country anymore. So yeah, man, I don't know anyone. The last person I knew was Usain Bolt. And he wasn't an American, but he was greatness personified, both on that track, but in the way that he treated everyone, right? Like there's some of the coolest little videos are like Usain Bolt just going up and fist bumping whoever his judge is. And like, you see them get this big smile because he was that great of a human as well. Right. And we love that. We love that greatness when someone who's up here sees us down here and they come over and they initiate it. Right. That never happens. And so we love Usain Bolt for that reason. But since then, who is it? I don't, the gymnast, right? We got a couple gymnasts who I'm blanking on the name right now. She's sorry. And that's the level.
Sure,
right?
We have gymnasts. We have some volleyball players. I'm sure we have some rowers.
Simone
I got
Biles.
no idea.
Simone Biles. Right.
See, I had no idea. I figured she would have been retired by now.
And to illustrate the point, she very well could be. I have no idea. But
maybe she's a coach now.
That was the other piece of greatness. And so, and that was also tied to culture too, by the way, right? And so the timing of so many things, when it comes to establishing greatness, is related to timing. It's almost like you have to look for whatever opportunity is being presented to you with wherever you're at in life and what the timing is with the economy, with the marketplace, with society and the culture, to try to figure out your next move so that you too can build greatness. That leads us into what's going to come down the pipeline.
Announcements. Go ahead. You already teased it. I'll let you make the announcement.
7/8, July 8th. July 8th, the Live Rich Project comes to life. The community will debut then. We've been hard at work behind the scenes, building out education now. The things that we cover are the things that are near and dear to us. There are certain things that we haven't covered yet that are near and dear to us that we will in the future. But understand the state of the world, the state of the economy. And there's one thing that, and I've put up a lot of polls on social media, and there's one thing that I see no division on ever. I've never seen it. And it is the things that you were taught in school. Were they the things that you should have been taught in school? And it's a resounding no every time. As a matter of fact, I've made that poll no less than 5 times. And out of the 5 times, I've only ever had one person say that, yes, you're taught the right things, and they were a teacher. So we removed that bias. We referred to that on a previous episode. The things that we should be taught, we're not. We have record debt. We have record deferments and defaults on payments, whether it's mortgages, whether it's credit card debt, whether it's auto loans. We have record obesity numbers. We have record dis-ease, right? By 2030, 7 out of 10 people are going to have some sort of health-related syndrome, and 50% of the population, 1 out of every 2, is going to be clinically obese. We're headed in the wrong direction. And it's mostly because proper information is not readily available. It's not distributed in the appropriate amount at the appropriate price point, because typically when you want to understand these things, whether it's, I want to know more about the body, cool, you need to go buy a certification for over $1,000 every time. Unnecessary, right? Like, the basics of nutrition are the basics of nutrition, and people look for magic bullets. And so they look to all the crazy fad diets, which some have their benefits for an extended period of time. Some never have any benefits. People don't understand how to start a business. They don't understand how to grow a business. They don't understand how to take the thing that they already love to do, their purpose, their passion, their skill, whatever, and to begin to monetize that, which is the thing that we should all be doing. Because I think every one of us knows what it's like to show up to a dead-end job that's soulless, and it sucks your will to live, and it sucks your creativity, and it sucks your happiness. And it's because we think that's the thing we have to do when it's not. It's because we don't know any better, because we're not empowered with the knowledge. No one imparts on us the wisdom of how to do the things, so we can then apply them to turn them into a skill. We've seen over the last several years the arts and the trades starting to be pushed down. Why? Unnecessary. Any skill is relevant. Any skill is valuable. If you know how to build things, you know how to house people. If you know how to create art, you know how to bring joy to people. And so there is an ecosystem that most people just don't see. it is time to get back to that. It's time to get back to a time of values. It's time to get back to where people are helping each other, where leadership and mentorship is readily available, where education is not hidden behind some crazy paywall, whether you're talking about courses or whether we're talking about, hey, you need to go into college so you can get a major that's going to cost you $100,000 that's going to give you a job that makes $30,000 a year. The time is now, because if you pay attention to the writing on the wall, it's not getting any better. And until we begin to empower each other, until we begin to come together, we're going to stay on this downward trajectory. But we can do this. We can turn the ship around. It just takes all of us getting on the same page, putting silly things aside, putting silly flags and silly banners aside so we can come together on principles, so we can lift each other up. And so that's why the Live Rich Project is coming. July 8th, we go live. We would love to see you there. And if you have any questions, please reach out. In the meantime, the wait list is open.
The wait list is open. DM Michael _ connects on Instagram. He has the wait list link. If you DM me, that's fine. I will tell you to go DM Michael and get the waitlist link. We're going to see how well everyone can follow directions on this one. So DM him for the waitlist link, as well as any questions that you have. Be happy to answer them as well. We'll get everybody in. We'll explain what's going to kind of happen and how we're going to kick everything off. There's going to be different avenues, different quests you can go on as well. So I'm super excited. Gamification is where you and I jam out a lot, and we have a lot of fun ideas on how not to just be another drop in the bucket when it comes to these groups. We've covered on here before School Like Launch, and then Hormozy partnered with Sam Ovens, which is fantastic. You and I just have hammered home time and time again that communities need to exist. As a business owner, you need to have a community. So I was glad to see more people actually start communities, because I'm like, yes, now we have more businesses that can actually stick around. Unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people are still using them correctly. I think they're just using them as a way to funnel people in to basically like a Facebook page to then ask occasional questions. And you're going to see those skyrocket and then they're going to drop. So what we want to do is something completely different. We want to use gamification elements that are fun, not only for us on the back end to be like, yes, this thing is thriving and it's working, but also for you to actually come in and want to be a part of this, not just to also sit in creeper mode and just be like, well, I wonder what the guys are going to post next, or wonder what their next training is. Like, yeah, we definitely want you excited about those things, but we're going to be big on contribution as well, and fun ways to get the community to really just take a life of its own, not just, always have to rely on Michael and myself or whoever we bring in as guests or co-collaborators to have to do the next big thing. We want in real time, especially as we bring in more people that are local business owners or they're service providers, or you have products, we want areas of the community to actually be sectioned off to where we can in real time group think a lot of that stuff, and we'll know in real time what's working. You and I talk all the time about other areas too that we've been dedicating a lot of our time to, which is finances, right? Tax help. How do you distribute different money coming in? How much should you be allocating for savings? All these things, whether you're just an everyday person that has a W-2 or you're a business owner trying to figure those things out. Like, we weren't taught those things. And so you either have to trust influencer advice, which isn't suggested. That's why my tagline today says not advice. Or you've got to find somebody that you trust. And it's tough because you can go on social media, you can go on YouTube, you can Google things, and you can find completely contradictory information from just one site to another or one post to another. I told you I was talking with one of my friends, and I'd sent him a link on Twitter about even just a topic that somebody was covering. And it was one of those, there's not a lot of people that have covered this topic. So it's one of those where you don't know if it's all facts or if it's just some stuff has just, been put together on their own. And I was like, yeah, this is the stuff that, we want to put in the group and then have like an actual expert or somebody come in and go through this type of stuff. So that way, when people see this, they know what's real, what's not real. And then if they see more of this, they'll be able to make up their own conclusions. And he's like, yes, he's like, I don't see that at all. And I was like, I know. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. And so I know that's a lot to take in, but guys, DM Michael, hit him Michael_connects. Let him know if you have any questions, but jump on the waiting list. It's just very simple, just who you are, goals, things like that. And then from there, we'll get you taken care of. Any final words of wisdom, Michael, before we call it a day?
Get to work.
You heard it here first, folks. We'll see you next time.